So let me do my quick intro, and then we'll go
Okay.
right.
I'm over here like,
Welcome to another episode of Live Nation Urban Presents Meet the Execs, the longest running weekly episodic IG program for music. I'm just making that up, but you know what? We're gonna run with it. I'm your host, Brandon Pankey, and today we have a very, very special guest. She is the Artist Relations Manager for YouTube Music, Miss Brittany Lewis. Brittany, how are you?
hi, Brandon. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
I was just, texting you on a group chat about,
Yep, because we're working
HBCU on the yard.
on it. What's the name of the show that we're working on that's airing tomorrow?
It's HBCU Homecoming. Meet me on the yard.
Mm-hmm.
Powered by YouTube. It will also be on linear TV on BET. Make sure you check it out. Shout out to Live Nation Urban and Jesse Collins Entertainment.
Right.
Woo!
Yep. So, plugged it twice already. We're going to do it before we leave too.
I'm gonna keep plugging.
Keep plugging. So, Brittany, talk about your journey. You from Delaware. I'm trying to figure out how a woman from Delaware has made her way to a very prominent position in the music industry.
First of all, Brandon, now Heather Lowry's also from Delaware.
And she's on here. Yeah, she's on here watching right now. So go ahead.
Exactly. Okay, so first of all, I grew up in Dover, Delaware, born and raised. Very quickly, just growing up in Delaware, it's kind of like small town vibes. I knew immediately that I needed to get out and that and not to like pat myself on the back or anything, but like I was bigger than that town in that state. And I just saw that I wanted more for myself. So like my first step in that was applying to colleges. And I made sure that I didn't apply to any college that was in Delaware. So there was no in-state anything happening for me. I was like, if I can't leave, I don't know what I'm going to do. Luckily, I got into Howard University, the illustrious Howard University. And I initially studied PR there.
Okay.
And funny enough, I've never worked a professional day in my life in PR ever. So, so y'all just get y'all degrees and you can figure out what else you want to do on your career journey after that.
Networking helped you get to where you're at.
1,000%. And that's like rule number one at Howard University. So when you step on campus, they're like, look to your left and your right. One of y'all probably not going to be here by the end of the 4 years, but the other person, make sure that you're networking with your peers, you're networking across and not always thinking about networking up.
Yep.
And it's just ingrained in the culture at Howard, and people really take it seriously, and we help each other out. Even if we might not like each other personally, if you're a Bison, I know that you have this instilled work ethic and stamina to really get the job done, because it's just the way we're bred at Howard. So I'll always give somebody from Howard University at alley because I know that they will stand up and they will deliver. So that's kind of how I started. And one thing at Howard, it was very competitive. So starting after my freshman year, I made sure that I had an internship, not every summer, but every semester.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that was, I've interned at Fox 5 News in DC, which was crazy. I've done things for Rails to Trails, nonprofit stuff in DC. I've worked for lobbyist organizations.
Mm-hmm.
But I always knew that I wanted to work in entertainment. I initially thought I was going to be Lizzie Grubman and do entertainment PR.
Yep.
And so I got an internship at VH1 in their publicity department. And my mentor there, Niall Washington, shout out to her. She's an executive over at Stars now.
Okay.
Or Netflix, actually. She went to Stars and now she's at Netflix.
Okay.
But she was an amazing person. And that's when it was solidified to me that I needed to be working in entertainment. And then music was just always a passion. So it was an easy kind of transition to that. And my first job professionally after I graduated was at Russell Simmons' founded company, Global Grind. And that job I got because of a fellow Bison who actually sent me the application. I was like, you should apply for this job.
Brittany, before you get into your actual career, why are internships so important? You said you had an internship every semester. What's the value in having an internship?
Oh, man. It's all about learning, right? It's about information. It's about access. And I took random internships too, right? Like I knew I would never be in the promotions department at a news station, but when I was down in the promotions department, I was like time stamping and time coding like Simpson episodes, right? It's like getting that experience to kind of learn what everybody does in different facets of the business. I thought was instrumental. You know, even when I worked at a lobbying organization, like a lobbyist organization that lobbied on behalf of veterans, right? So it's like you kind of see how the world functions when you're taking multiple internships in different realms of your business or whatever your major is going to be. So even though I knew I wanted to do entertainment PR, I took PR jobs or in that realm of communications far and in between. So
didn't mean to disrupt you. So you got the global grind. You got that from a fellow bison. Go on.
Yes. And so there I just kind of like worked my way up. And like when I first started at the time, I think Russell had this show called Running Russell Simmons on Oxygen. So that was kind of cool because the whole thing was that like, you know, all these women were like keeping his life on track. So I was like one of the interns on there that like got, you know, some shine and all, you know, all this other stuff. So I really just worked my way up over through the years, and I just really lasered in on music, became the music editor. And then around like 2011 was when all of the like blogs, the entertainment sites started transitioning their content on YouTube. And YouTube was like a big bet. So then that's when we started like shooting interviews and content for Global Grind's YouTube channel. Fast forward, Russell sold the company to Interactive One, which is like the digital subsidiary of Radio One, TV One. And I worked there for a year, but I knew very quickly that I needed to transition into technology. And so that's when I started on my hunt to get to Spotify.
Okay. And you got to Spotify, and what was your role at Spotify besides working with a great company and turning Rap Caviar into Rap Caviar Live? But go on. You can tell that story.
Yes. So my job at Spotify, I was the creative manager for hip hop and R&B. So I worked day to day with our in-house production team to create like original bespoke content for rappers and R&B singers in the playlist. And that also included me like licensing music videos for everything that I knew was like coming down the pipeline, right? So part of my job was getting into like Tuma's mind about what artists he really loved, and kind of timing the graduation between artists going from like Most Necessary, which was like our early bets playlist.
Who's Tuma? Who's Tuma?
Oh, Tuma Basa, the one and only icon. He's a legend. If you don't know who Tuma Basa is, you should Google him. He's everything. But he's also like one of my mentors and the brilliant mind behind Rap Caviar. There would be no Rap Caviar without Tuma. And it's just become a way bigger brand, even though we're no longer there. It's just still something to be very proud of because it still exists, even though we're not in the building anymore. But really my day-to-day job was kind of like predicting what Tuma was going to do and what he was programming, what he really loved, and then kind of translating that to our in-house production team and working with artists and their managers to shoot content that mirrored whatever album release they had coming out, single, creating evergreen content, and then programming that stuff into the actual Rap Caviar playlist. And that's kind of where it started. And then Rap Caviar exploded into Rap Caviar Live, which we worked with you guys on at Live Nation Urban.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And also we had like Rap Caviar merch. We had Rap Caviar Pantheon, which was super significant at the time because, you know, at that moment, this was kind of like the era when everybody was calling for the removal of these Confederate statues in the South. And here we are, Tuma and I are like talking to our marketing team about creating 7,000-pound statues of these young Black artists, right? And like this shit is going to live on longer than them. So I think that was the thing that was super inspiring, was like, yo, I'm actually like a part of creating something that'll live longer and that's immortal in a sense. And so that year we did 21 Savage, SZA, and Metro Booming. And that's because in 2017, they had like an incredible year, all three of them. Yep. And even though SZA was an R&B artist, she just made such an impact on hip hop culture in general. And we just felt like just because she was R&B that we shouldn't slight her. So we wanted her to be a part of that. And that was phenomenal. So Rap Caviar became way bigger than a playlist. And then obviously, you know, we did Rap Caviar Live together and did 2 tours, like 2 tour runs essentially. Where did we go? We went to like 12 cities, right?
12 cities, 12 or 13. Yeah.
Yeah. And so some very iconic things happened during that tour. And yeah, so that was my time at Spotify. Funny enough, a lot of the times when I was at Spotify, I was on YouTube all the time because that's how I would kind of predict what we should be looking out for that would be on our platform, right? And because YouTube is a platform where artists can just upload directly and don't need to go through a distributor, we would sometimes catch artists on YouTube, stalk them down and say, hey, why isn't your song on Spotify? Who's your manager? Let me talk to them. Let me help you get this distributed across our platform, because we saw that it was hot and bubbling on YouTube, but for whatever reason, they didn't have the knowledge or the access to get it across DSPs. So that actually happened with Ugly God. His joint Water was going viral on YouTube, but he didn't have any distribution. And so we kind of like tracked him down and was like, hey, like, what's going on? Do you need recommendations for distribution? Do you need, you know, STEM or CD Baby, TuneCore? We can help you out on getting information about how to distribute your music across all DSPs. So now that I'm at YouTube, I kind of am like, you know, it's like a dream because I'm always on YouTube anyways. And now I work at YouTube. So my day-to-day really is building out artist marketing campaigns with artists and working with their teams. And also just not even working on YouTube stuff, but kind of surfacing artists throughout Google across the company, right? So Google's a very large company. They have everything from Pixel to Google for Startups, Grow with Google, you know, Nest. There's all these different verticals within the company, and sometimes they need artists to do things or be representatives, ambassadors for certain products. And so that's kind of my job, is getting artists and introducing them to some of our tech folks, even like artists in residence who sit down with a lot of our engineers and explain to them like what works for them and what doesn't. Like all of that is kind of inclusive in my job.
Got you. How do you choose artists to work with?
So I primarily focus on Black artists. Okay. And my colleague AJ, he primarily focuses on Latin. So we kind of sometimes divide it up amongst genre. But a lot of people on our team do, you know, they have Black artists and global artists across the board, but I primarily focus on Black artists. And basically, it's like, who's in cycle, who's having a moment, who do I think will be having a moment? I'm kind of like predicting in the future. So I'm like, I think this person will be hot in 6 months. Let's make sure we contact their team and really like help them build up their YouTube channel. Let's get in the weeds. Let's give them content strategy. And kind of usher them in the door that way. And then what really works really good at YouTube just across the board is like, kind of once you're in the building, all these floodgates kind of open up for you across the board, right? So Alicia Keys is an artist, for instance, that I work with. And Google loves Alicia. And, you know, Alicia does a lot for Google and Google does a lot for Alicia. And so that's just a prime example of an artist that, you know, is in the door and they want her to do everything. They want her to try every product. And so we're just trying to give artists, you know, more access to tech companies. Because sometimes, you know, Google and YouTube, it's kind of like the Wizard of Oz. You're like, who's behind this big curtain? And so we're just kind of bringing them in, you know?
And do you work with unsigned artists at all? Are you basing it? What are the metrics? You know, do you have to have X amount of, you know, views?
Yeah. So we work with independent artists, whether they're, you know, they could be going through They could be like purely independent where they're not going through any label, or they could be signed to JV, or they could be like an empire.
Okay.
You know, we work with indie labels all the time. We have a lot of programs for indie artists. So my colleague Naomi Zeichner actually started up our Foundry program, which is actually exclusively for indie artists.
Wow.
Because we know indie artists need funding, they need money, they don't have budgets, and sometimes aren't priorities. So we give them artist grants to, you know, create and make content for their YouTube channels. So that's
how do the artists find out about that, or managers of independent artists?
We usually make announcements. So obviously this year was kind of really weird and messed
Right.
up. So I think back in February, there was a press announcement made about it, and then artists are able to apply. And then Naomi, God bless her, sifts through thousands of applications and kind of picks artists that she thinks have a real chance to blow up and have a moment. And so, yeah, we've had like Dua Lipa was a part of the Foundry program before she got signed. Baby Rose, who I love, who's from DC but lives in Atlanta right now. She was in Foundry. She just recently got a deal with Island. Anne Marie from Chicago. There's so many dope artists that we've had that are phenomenal that have gone on to get signed, and you know, we've been able to be a part of that story.
That's dope. So I want to there's a little bit. You know, you talked about how the different divisions in YouTube work together. And with YouTube Music, YouTube Originals coming together, especially after YouTube, you know, gave so much money for Black creators to develop, you know, new content. One of those things are HBCU Homecoming. As a Black woman working within YouTube, how does that make you feel to see so many Black creators getting an opportunity to have their content as a part of YouTube?
Yeah, I think it just validates and gives my work more purpose, right? You know, it's kind of bittersweet, right? Because if it weren't for Black people losing their lives, I don't know if big corporate companies would have the wherewithal to kind of create these funds. So it's, you know, it's bittersweet, but it's something that I'm championing across the board. There's so many task force, and when I tell you guys that everybody at YouTube and Google are working really quickly to get a lot of these programs up and off the ground. The $100 million fund is a multi-year fund, and we're hoping to do this through 2023. And we're really hoping to not only just amplify Black artists' voices, but also like economically empower them, right? So giving them access to capital to create content. And then also, if you're looking at the tech side, if we're talking about Google for startups or Grow with Google, like we're giving people access to not only funding, but workshops and training on how to get your tech business off the ground and how to get your small business off the ground. So there's a lot of initiatives going on in Google across the board that we're doing, and I'm just want to make sure and let people know that best believe there are a lot of hardworking Black folks, white folks, and everybody in between that are actually really trying to get this work done. So stay tuned.
Phenomenal. So before we get out of here,
yes,
you went to HU, you went to Howard University, you missed homecoming this year. So many, all of that. So many HBCUs missed their homecoming this year. What's going tomorrow? What's happening? What's this show about? Talk to us. Shout it out one time before we leave, please.
Okay. So wait, I want to make 2 shout outs. So I'm going to talk about homecoming, and then I also want to talk about, because I see Dom is in here, Dom LA. Dom works on our YouTube experiential and events team. We did Leaders and Legends Ball earlier this year in January. We honored LaFace Records in Atlanta. It was iconic. I just wanted to shout Dom out because we worked on that shit together, and it was legendary. It was a night that we can't forget. So I just wanted to shout that out. But yes, YouTube on the Yard, HBCU Homecoming. Meet me on the Yard tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We have performances by 2 Chainz, Sweetie, and Ali Chapa, Chloe and Halle, Ty Tribbett, Ari Lennox,
Village.
Spillage Village. Spillage Village. Oh, let me tell you, y'all, Spillage Village definitely killed it. I felt like I was on campus with them in their performance. I was like, wow, I'm like, they really at school. Like, I felt like I was a student. And we have some surprises. I don't know if we can say all of the surprises. We can't. Brandon's saying, be quiet. So we have some really dope surprises, but there's amazing segments about the Divine Nine, Black Love on HBCU campuses. One of my favorite packages is the package around Black small business owners from HBCUs. So really, really love that. It's family, it's celebration, it's feel good. It's also, so you can watch it on YouTube Originals channel. Please set your reminders. If you go to YouTube Originals, or actually if you just use the search bar on YouTube and type in HBCU Homecoming, it'll pop up. Set the reminder. You can also watch it on BET tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. If you live on the West Coast, you'll have to wait till 8 p.m. Pacific time to watch it on BET. So, whoop.
There it is. There it is. Anything, if any young woman that wants to be in this music industry, what's that advice that you would give them before we go?
Okay, so you always have to be willing to do the work. You have to do the work. If you don't do the work, you're not going to get anywhere. Always be respectful, honest. Try to always treat people kindly. I think a lot of people in this industry and music in general treat people based off of what they can do for them. Don't do that. Don't be one of those people. That's because people remember that. And let me tell you something. Scooter Braun was an intern at MTV, and now he reps some of the most iconic artists there's out, right? So it's like, just be very clear. Everybody starts off as an intern. Don't treat anybody like shit because you feel like you're better than them or have more power than them.
Or that assistant will one day be the artist relations manager at YouTube or be VP at Live Nation Urban and will remember every damn thing you said or did when they were an assistant. Sorry, that's my own venting for 2 seconds. Well, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, they 1,000% will. But also too, like I had a mentee this year, this summer, and I loved my mentee because she was young and in the streets and has so much more energy. And I was able to like get information and learn from her as well. So like that was the thing that was exciting for me. It was like, not only is she getting information from me, but I'm also getting information from her. And I thought that was super valuable. So yeah, I think those are the three things. And I think everything else will kind of work out for you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Ms. Brittany, thank you so much for making time to be a part of this IG Live. We appreciate it. And we'll see you tomorrow watching HBCU Homecoming 2020. Meet me on the yard.
Meet me on the yard. Thank you so much, Brandon. I appreciate you for having me. And shout out to all my wonderful friends that I see in the comments. I love y'all. Appreciate it.
Shout out to none of my friends who ever just pop in and come. None, ever. This has been another episode of Live Nation Urban Presents Meet the Execs. I'm your host, Brandon Pankey, with the amazing Brittany Lewis. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll be back next Friday. Take care.
Bye.